Hi there. One of the most useful features within Fairbot automation is to make use of the execution count option, especially if you use it in conjunction with the rule number of executions condition. You've seen me use this many times if you've looked at any of my automation videos over the past 6 months or so, but let's just run through all the basic stuff. Essentially, any rule that you create has to execute once, at least. And the only time it won't execute is if there's any conditions you've specified in here that prevent it from doing so, or you've specified a time window that hasn't arrived as yet. Once that window is available, the rule then becomes active. And if the conditions specified here allow it, that rule will fire. So let's just set up a very basic rule that will place a bet on the current favourite, back bet, fixed odds of best back odds, and we'll set that to plus 10. So we're going to ask for odds 10 tick higher than they currently are, and we'll stick in a £10 bet. And what we're going to do is this will start off immediately, and it should run right away, just with one bet. Now let me just switch that to the ladder. Once I've saved that, of course, we'll switch that to the ladder. So we can see, so we should get a bet coming in up here somewhere. So if I switch to the automation tab and choose execution count, there's my bet gone in. There's it sitting in the market, waiting to be matched. Okay, so that's essentially how the execution count works. But we can enhance it still further. If I go back in, and let's say we want this to execute 5 times with 10-second gaps between them. Now you can obviously increase or decrease that to whatever you like. So let's just put it to 5 seconds so we're not waiting too long. So again, this will go in immediately whenever I assign the strategy. So we'll save that, and if I move that over a little bit, what will happen is we'll get one bet going in, 5 seconds later, another bet, and so on. So we'll assign this to execution count. There's our first bet. 5 seconds later, we should see another bet going in. There we go. It just happens to go in more or less at the same odds. Obviously, as the odds move here, the position will change. That's our 4 bets. There should be one more to come in. There we go. So that now, if we switch to the automation tab, you'll see it has executed 5 out of 5 times. So that relates directly back to this thing here. Execute 5 times, spaced by 5 seconds apart. Now the interesting thing to note is that if for whatever reason one of these executions doesn't happen, and that's generally either because you've run out of time, so your little time window that you specify up here is no longer active, or more commonly, you have a condition up here that will stop. What actually happens is the next count in turn won't be counted. Essentially, it pauses the rule. And so it may actually have to wait longer than the interval you've specified here, 5 seconds in this case. It may actually have to wait until such times as the conditions allow that to continue. So you may actually find that you'll do 1, 2, or 3 counts and then it stops. And it may stop for minutes before it then activates again. But that's essentially how the execution count works. Now the great thing about that is we can then use a condition elsewhere within our strategy that counts that. So for example, by using this rule here, now generally speaking, you don't use a rule number of executions to refer to itself. You would create another rule. So let's just, for the sake of argument, set up another rule. Let me get rid of those first of all before we go any further. Let's just create up another rule, and what we're going to do is we are going to cancel. So we do the action of cancel all selections. So essentially we're going to green up effectively. No, actually let's cancel. Let's just cancel. So if we cancel all bets, we're going to cancel all the back bets, unmatched. And we're going to do that when the rule that we've created earlier, rule number 1, has reached 5. So let's do greater than or equal to 5. We know it's not going to go higher than 5, so we can do it equal to, set that to 5. So the 5th bet will go in. That rule will be counted up to 5 out of 5 executions, and all our bets should be cancelled. Okay, and now this one only needs to run once. Now if we set it to go at the same time, it won't execute until such times as the other rule has done its 5 executions. So let's just save that again, and once again, if we get rid of that out of the way, we'll assign that. We should get our bets starting to go in at 1 every 5 seconds. Okay, so you can see them coming in here. So if I switch back to the automation tab, you'll see the count here. Every 5 seconds it increments. Now when that hits 5, this should fire as well, and our bets will disappear. All right. Now, what happened there was, because the way I've got this timed, this thing here fired just as that reached 5. So the bet entered the market after that command had worked. So in this case, what you might want to do, you want that hitting 5 to be the trigger for this. But it may miss that last bet going in, which it has done in this particular case. So the way around that is simply to edit that and tell it to do it twice. And let's have a gap of 5 seconds. So if we do that again we'll reset that and clear all our bets away. Execute count. So we'll get 5 bets coming in here slowly but surely. So there's our coming in every 5 seconds as planned. Go back to the automation tab. As I said, this will get to 5 and this will fire, but we may end up with 1 bet left, depending on the timing. Okay, so there's our last bet. This will fire twice and that one should disappear. There we go. Okay, so that's a very simple explanation of how you can go about making use of the execution count itself, which allows you to execute a rule, the same rule repeatedly. That's the type of thing that you might use to drip feed bets into the market. But in addition to that, you can use this condition, the rule number of executions, to determine how many times a rule has fired. Now I use this extensively if you've ever seen any of my automation programs, and I'll use it as a mechanism to determine if something has happened in the past, i.e. a rule has fired. So I may have a rule that just does a dummy action, doesn't actually do anything, but it's monitoring something in the market, and that it executes whenever that something has happened. I can then refer to that count using another rule and therefore be able to go and do something else depending on what's happened in the past. It's a very useful mechanism to use and get familiar with. And if you, as I say, if you've looked at any of my automation strategies in the past 6 months or so, you'll see that I use it extensively. So make sure you understand how it works and put it to good use. Okay guys, thanks very much for watching. Cheers.